Good morning. Welcome to the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave, brought to you by Suburban Ford. And not only Suburban Ford, we have a special guest this week. New Jersey Institute of Technology also chipping in to help out the 7 Sports Cave. What do you guys think? Mike Stone, Keith Nickel. That was a little bit of a shocker yesterday.
A little bit, but, you know, people, look, Wright State beat Michigan State. Michigan State went on to win the national championship. I don't think Michigan's going to be – this is a rebuilding year for them anyway. It is a shocker. It's nothing compared to what Appalachian State did to them in football. Let's not mix the two up.
Let's not mix the two. Did you watch that game yesterday?
Yeah, I saw it. I don't think people should be very worried. I mean, you don't want to see those losses, but at the same time, very early.
Yes.
College basketball, we'll be talking a lot about that in the next coming weeks. But college football, finally wrapping up the regular season. All the conference champions have been crowned. Now it's where are you going to play if you've reached 6 wins, and we're going to be talking a lot about the top 4, who's in the playoff, who's out of the playoff, and we've actually got a special guru guy right in the studio here, Mike Foss over at the bar. Mike, take us through what's going on with those Power 6 bowl games.
Yeah, good morning, guys, and in less than a couple of hours, we'll find out who the top 4 teams are in this year's college football playoff, the first ever college football playoff. But before we get to that, I consider myself a bit of a bowl projectionist by hobby. I've been doing it for about 5 or 6 years now, and I'm excited to take that and share it with you here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to break down the top 4 as I see it, and then the rest of the so-called New Year's 6, which does include Michigan State. But first, let's take a look at who I've got in the top 4. I think we can say it's a pretty safe bet that Alabama and Oregon are going to be the top 2, probably in that order. Alabama 1, Oregon 2, both 12-1, both looking extremely impressive. No reason those 2 shouldn't be the top 2. Now, the bottom half of that top 4 is where it starts to get interesting. I've got Florida State at 3. There are some people who make the argument that Florida State shouldn't be in the playoff, but I think if you're the selection committee, you're not going to take a 13-0 team, the only undefeated team, and leave them out of that top 4. So I've got them in that 3rd spot. Now, the 4th spot, I've got Ohio State. I think Ohio State played themselves into the playoff with that 59-0 win over Wisconsin last night in the Big Ten title game. I know TCU had that impressive win over Iowa State, I guess impressive by some people's standards. Now, putting up 55 points on a terrible Iowa State team doesn't really impress me as much as shutting out number 13 Wisconsin in a neutral site conference title game. Now, we get to the rest of the New Year's 6, and those are determined by the committee rankings. And these are the 8 teams that I've got in some order or another. I don't think there's going to be too much movement. So Boise State is in there by virtue of being the highest ranked conference champion from a non-power conference. It's kind of like the old at-large bid in the old BCS like Northern Illinois got a few years ago. So let's start with the other 4 games here in the New Year's 6, and we'll start with the Orange Bowl because that's the only one that's got any sort of a formula to it. The Orange Bowl is obligated to take an ACC team. Now, with Florida State presumably making the playoff, that leaves Georgia Tech. So we're going to go ahead and put Georgia Tech into the Orange Bowl. Now, the way the Orange Bowl works is the ACC team has to play the highest ranked non-champion from the Big Ten or the SEC. In this case, that appears to be Michigan State. So there you go, Spartan fans. Michigan State and Georgia Tech in the Orange Bowl on New Year's Eve. So now, if you look at my list here, you may have noticed I've got 3 Big 12 teams, TCU, Baylor, and Kansas State. So basically, just by virtue of that, you're going to break them up into the rest of the bowl games. So let's just start with Baylor. I know we had the co-champions in the Big 12 rather, but Baylor won the head-to-head. So let's say the committee decides to throw Baylor a bone and give them a home game in the Cotton Bowl. So we're going to go ahead and put Baylor into the Cotton Bowl. That leaves TCU and Kansas State. I think given the geography, the committee will probably want to keep TCU fairly close to home. So we're going to go ahead and put TCU into the Fiesta Bowl, which by process of elimination puts Kansas State into the Peach Bowl. That leaves Mississippi State, Arizona, and Boise State. Now, you might think Arizona would go into the Fiesta Bowl. They could, but I see Fiesta Bowl as being more likely to be a Boise State destination. So we'll go ahead and put TCU and Boise State into the Fiesta Bowl. We mentioned Arizona, so let's put Arizona into the Cotton Bowl with Baylor. Now, it's important to note that none of these our regular season matchups. That's something the committee always wants to avoid, is regular season matchups. So our one remaining team, Mississippi State, and we'll put them into the Peach Bowl with Kansas State. So to recap, Peach Bowl, Kansas State, Mississippi State, Fiesta Bowl, TCU, Boise State, Orange Bowl, Georgia Tech, and Michigan State. Those three are all New Year's Eve. New Year's Day, Cotton Bowl, Baylor, and Arizona. Now, I've also gone through and done bowl projections for every bowl game, so a few others I just want to mention real quickly. The new Quick Lane Bowl here in Detroit, I've got that as Maryland and Pittsburgh. It's an old ACC matchup being renewed here in 2014 with Maryland in the Big Ten. Also, a lot of CMU and Western alumni here in the area. Given the MAC Bowl structure, it looks like those two will go to the Boca Raton Bowl or the Bahamas Bowl in one form or another. I've got Central in the Bahamas Bowl. Not a bad way to spend the holiday, and Western in the Boca Raton Bowl. So a lot to go through. Once again, Michigan State looking to go into the Orange Bowl with Georgia Tech. That seems pretty clear to me. So, guys, let's hear what you have to think.
Mike, the only thing I think that you want to go to Central's bowl game in the Bahamas. That's why you put them there in the first place. But of those, that's great work, by the way, Mike. But of those 4 matchups now in those non-6 games, which is the best one, Stoney?
Well, I think the most entertaining would be Arizona against Baylor.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, what, the over-under going to be 130?
A lot of points to be scored in that game.
Yeah, that'll be the most fun game to watch. Michigan State, Georgia Tech will. I mean, Georgia Tech just it's not a sexy enough team for me as somebody who follows Michigan State. But the way they run that option is going to be very tough for Michigan State to defend. But I think Michigan State can beat them.
It depends on what kind of football fan you are. If you're one of those guys that likes good defense, you like the ground and pound, you like the smash mouth idea, then you like Georgia Tech, you like Michigan State. But if you want to see them air it out, go back and forth in a battle on offense, then obviously it's going to be Baylor and Arizona. So we'll see. I think Michigan State could struggle a little bit with that Georgia Tech offense. They wear you out. They're up the middle. They're diversion. They're lobbing the ball up on the DBs when they're not paying attention. I mean, Florida State struggled the entire game, and I thought really Georgia Tech was going to take it there at the end. So that'll be a good game. Really challenge Pat Narduzzi in his defense and see how they can game plan for a month and get ready for him.
I think I saw a funny tweet last night when I was watching that game saying, wouldn't that be great to be in the room watching that game with Pat Narduzzi? He's probably just going, oh, all right, because that's pretty much the matchup. It was almost guaranteed at this point in the game. But if Ohio State were to drop, some of those other matchups would change. I want to go back to the conference championships real quick because, gosh, besides the Florida State Georgia Tech game, they were all duds.
I know.
Do we need to change? My question is do we need to change the format of how we get to a conference championship? Because, I mean, I don't know. I would have seen Michigan State play Ohio State again. In my own personal.
First of all, the Big 12 needs to change the rules of the NCAA. They should be allowed to have a conference championship game. I know they don't have enough teams, so that's why they don't do it. But look, the conference champion. I mean, look, I thought the Arizona-Oregon game was going to be a more competitive game.
Right.
That wasn't. You kind of knew Alabama was going to
steamroll
Missouri.
So would you have rather seen another Alabama-Auburn or Michigan State, Ohio State? Just for the sake of argument, is there a way we can change that formula to maybe?
Well, what should have happened? Michigan State should not have acquiesced and gone to the East. They should have stayed in the division that they were supposed to be in.
Yeah,
or I should say this: not allow Ohio State to come over.
Sure.
It's probably better.
Right.
Because let's face it, Ohio State, as much as a lot of people don't like Urban Meyer, he is a great coach. And what we saw last night with their third-string quarterback, you could argue this,
Amazing.
that right now they have the 3 best quarterbacks in the conference.
Yeah.
With all due respect to Connor Cook, you could argue that Miller, JT, and the guy
That's amazing.
Yesterday was amazing.
Keith, take me from a player's perspective. You lose your quarterback in the last game of the season. What was his ability to did that galvanize that team a little bit to have a guy that was third string? I mean, come on, you don't expect a third string quarterback to win, not only win, but convincingly.
Convincingly, and it says a lot about recruiting. It says a lot about these coaches' ability to get these guys prepared. I mean, a third string quarterback, he barely gets any reps all season. He's on the scout team for most of the year,
exactly.
Right? The kid's a young kid. I think he's a freshman. Right? I mean, it's amazing.
He was the one that tweeted that, why am I here to...
Yeah, I'm not here to go to class. I'm here to play football.
So, well,
football
there
pretty
might
good.
be some truth to that. Right?
A little bit of truth to that.
But it is amazing what they did to beat Wisconsin the way they did on a neutral site and decide. I mean, it wasn't even close from the moment they kicked the ball off. So it was awesome. And Ohio State's strong right now.
Yeah.
I gotta love the Sports Illustrated jinx. Gordon on the cover, and boy, he did nothing yesterday.
Did he even
Well,
have 50 yards?
Ohio State
all
did
they
a
had to
great
do was
job.
stop him, and
Yeah, their quarterback
couldn't
bad.
throw.
And talking about the top four, it's weird. Ohio State makes everybody look, oh, they're great and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. TCU to me seems to be the most well-rounded team, but they lost to Baylor. So how doesn't Baylor go up ahead of TCU? And here's the other thing. I think the committee put themselves in a really strange position because TCU is 3 right now.
They've been 3 for a while.
Okay, so you're going to tell me that Ohio State is going to jump 2 spots? Not 1, but 2?
Right. Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. We all knew that somebody at some point is going to get left out, right?
Right.
There's no perfect system. So this is going to happen. The number 5 is going to get left out. If there are 8 teams, number 9 is going to get left out. We're going to be talking about the same thing. So I don't think there's a perfect system. But if you want to find out who the number 1 team in the country is, it always happens, right? With the team that's number 1, and that's what we're trying to do is find out who's number 1 and who wins the national title game. That happens every year. The BCS, however you want to do it, this system's going to exploit that as well. But somebody's going to get left out. I don't care what you do.
We're going to dive into this a little bit later on in the show. We'll get you involved. Go on Twitter. Use the hashtag 7SportsCave. We want to hear your thoughts on the whole college playoff, and we'll break down if there should be more than just 4 teams. But we got to talk about the Michigan coaching search. Obviously, Brady Hoke let go earlier this week. Jim Hackett came out and talked to the media about what's going on there. I got a laundry list of candidates here that I'm looking at. Guys, who jumps off the page to you?
Well, first of all, the news today is that according to the NFL Network, Michigan has already reached out to Jim Harbaugh, and they left that meeting with the impression that he wants to stay in the National Football League. So no matter how much
not a
money,
huge shocker or huge shocker?
No, not a huge shocker at all. I mean, now, I want to hear it come from Jim Harbaugh's mouth.
Boom.
That's what Michigan fans, they have to at least know that their school made the effort to get the best guy possible.
Yeah.
After that, Les Miles told recruits he's staying, but
Yeah, they say that all the time.
exactly.
Jim Harbaugh might be the best Christmas gift that school ever received. So
I know.
That'd be great to see him come back. That'd rejuvenate, I think, the Big Ten to get him in there.
But if he told him no, look, I'd love John Harbaugh, but he's not coming. There's some weird names being flashed around too.
David Shaw from Stanford, Kevin Sumlin from Texas A&M. I think an interesting one to at least think about is if TCU gets jumped. Gary Patterson might say, well, if I can't get into the playoff with a 1-loss team and I was ranked 3rd in the country forever with TCU's label, maybe he
he's down in Texas. You have that fertile recruiting ground.
Michigan's a national recruiter.
Yeah,
I like David Shaw a lot.
So
right?
do I.
A high academic institution, works with a lot of talented kids. I think the kids that come out of that program are going to.
He went to Rochester Adams High School.
Society's going to benefit from those kids,
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
like that kind of coach, and I think Michigan would really benefit from a guy like that.
He grew up. He went to high school here because his dad was an assistant coach for the Lions. But as everybody wants Jim Harbaugh to come back to his alma mater, David Shaw went to Stanford too. So why would you leave your alma mater to come here? I know Michigan State fans might be happy because they beat David Shaw last year in the Rose Bowl.
I'm a little over the Michigan man thing, so just get the
Which
best
is
guy in
fine.
the door. Just get the best guy in the door.
That was the best thing. Sean Payton's son, by the way, there was a tweet out this week of a picture of him wearing a Michigan T-shirt from about a year and a half ago, and he also on Sean Payton's son's Twitter account retweeted the Brady Hoke picture of him being fired. So Sean Payton might be an interesting name.
Lots to see. Again, get on Twitter. Use the hashtag 7SportsCave. We'll read some of those tweets with these two guys coming up right after the break. Stay with us here on the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave.